Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Post to Post. My name is Neil if you're new, and if you are new, I would love it if you could hit the subscribe button down below because over 60% of return viewers to the channel are not subscribed. So the biggest thing you can do to help is hit the subscribe button down below. And we are going to get into it today. We're going to get into the full bracket, and I'm going to do all my predictions straight to the end. And we're going to use the NHL's actual little league that they've got set up, or their bracket right on their site. I'm going to record my screen, I'm going to throw it up, and we can go through it. And it's this is for fun, right? This is for fun. There's nothing on the line here. I don't necessarily think I'm going to be right, but I'm still stressed about it, and I shouldn't be because this is supposed to be fun. But let's try and have some fun. Let's try and not make it stressful, even though it secretly is to me. Okay, let's get it going. So I'm going to leave the North Division because that's kind of my division. Let's leave that to the end. Let's start off with let's do the East. Let's do the East Division first, and we'll go from there. So as I'm filming this, you will have seen 2 series previews already on the channel. Now the rest of the series previews are coming, so you might already know 2 of my predictions, but the rest are still to come. So again, subscribe if you're not to check those out. Pittsburgh and the Islanders. It's a series built on potential revenge. It is a series that is one-sided if we compare the 2 teams in seasonal head-to-head matchups. Teams that played very different styles of hockey. The best defensive team probably in the league in the Islanders. This is difficult to predict. It really is. I could absolutely see both of these teams coming out of that first round. So I'm going to go with maybe the unpopular choice, but I'm really basing my gut feeling on their head-to-head stats from this season, and that gives it to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually won 6 of the 8 games, so they're 6-2, and the Islanders were 2-6 against Pittsburgh this year. So I'm kind of putting all my money in history, I guess, and I'm going to choose the Pittsburgh Penguins to move on to the second round, but honestly, would not be surprised if it was the Islanders. Either way, I think it's going the distance. Washington and Boston. This is another tough one, and I think on paper I would choose Washington, but Ovechkin is having a bit of a down year. So is Backstrom, and then you have to consider how hot Boston is right now. Probably the hottest team coming into the playoffs. They are just rolling. They're playing so well. They've got experience. Both these teams have experience. It's a clash of titans here. And again, I really wouldn't be surprised if either of these teams came out of this first round. I find this extremely difficult to predict. But I'm going to go with... Actually, I just want to check my... Yep, okay. I want to make sure that I match my series preview prediction. I'm going to go with Boston. And for games, I think this is going 7, guys. I think this is going the distance. And for the Islanders and the Penguins, I also think it's going the distance. I think both of these first rounds matchups in that East Division are going 7 games. And I hope it does because it just means more hockey. Let's move on to the Central Division. Let's flop over there. So we've got Carolina versus Nashville, and we've got Florida versus Tampa Bay. Probably the series that I'm most interested in, even though my team is in a different series. And by the way, I'm not really a Kings fan. I'm just wearing this because it's a neutral party jersey from my collection. So Carolina versus Nashville is a tricky one because when I first started on YouTube in the beginning of 2017, we were just kind of entering the last half of that season, entering the playoffs, and Nashville was on a tear, and they just barely made it into the playoffs. They faced Chicago, the powerhouse of Chicago, but I just had this gut feeling about Nashville that they were going to win. So I actually predicted Nashville to beat Chicago and completely upset them in that first round, and it happened. I think they actually swept them, which is crazy. It's one of the only actual good predictions I've ever made on the channel. One of 3, basically, of the thousands of predictions I've made. But I don't get that gut feeling this year with Nashville. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they kind of like shocked a couple people and came out of this series. If they are going to come out of this series, it's going to be a long series. It's going to be 6-7 games, probably 7 games, but I really don't see that happening personally. This is Carolina's series. This should be an easy series for Carolina, so Carolina gets my vote to advance. The Florida-Tampa one is, I almost see it much like the Washington-Boston one. It's almost impossible to predict what's going to happen because you've got, well, how is Stamkos and how is Kucherov going to perform when they get back? how much dust do they have on themselves that they need to get rid of, and how effective can they be immediately as they enter the lineup? And them coming back, is that going to change the chemistry at all? Probably not. Now, they're also coming off a cup run, so do they have a bit of a hangover? Well, I guess we'll find out pretty soon. But in Florida, you've got the goaltending situation to worry about, and maybe lack of experience, I guess. So this is extremely difficult to predict. I think if I was thinking completely objectively and logically, I would choose Tampa. But I'm almost emotionally invested a little bit in this series, and I usually don't predict based on emotion. But this time I'm going to, because I'm trying to will the Florida Panthers deep into the playoffs. So I'm going to choose the Florida Panthers to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. But again, I would not be surprised in any way if Tampa swept the Panthers, because the Lightning are just incredible. So we need to pick our games now. So for the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Nashville Predators, I'm going to choose 5 games. I think Carolina's going to get it done in 5 games. They might even sweep. I feel that strongly for Carolina here. Now the Florida-Tampa one. I think it's going the distance, and I hope it does. Can you imagine a 7-game series between the two, hopefully future rivals? I know they don't really have a rivalry right now, even though they're in the same state. But the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning need that rivalry. They need it. It's so good for hockey. And I think it should go 7, so I'm choosing 7. Now let's pop over to the West Division, and it gets a little complicated here as well. We've got Colorado versus St. Louis, which is probably the most difficult series to predict of them all. I will be cheering for Colorado, but you can't underestimate St. Louis because of what they did a couple of years ago, because of the lineup that they have, because of the system that they play with, and because of Binnington. I don't like Binnington, but he has the ability to just kind of mentally stop time and just play incredible. I don't know. I don't like that he can do that, but he can. So there's a Jordan Binnington factor here that we have to consider. So on paper, Colorado should easily win this series, I think, but thinking about all the aspects of St. Louis, they have me worried. I'm still going to choose Colorado, so let's choose Colorado to go ahead. But this one's tricky. I can't really get my mind around this one. I have a bad feeling about my prediction there. So Vegas and Minnesota, I'm choosing Vegas to go ahead. Nothing against Minnesota. I've loved watching Minnesota this year. Probably my most favorite team to watch the entire year was Minnesota, and they're not even my favorite team, for Pete's sake. So very disappointing that I guess, choosing them to be eliminated, but I just have a lot of faith in Vegas. I love the way they're built. I love the team, and I got a good feeling about them. I had a good feeling prior to the season starting, and that needs to continue. So I'm going to say that Vegas defeats Minnesota in 6 games. I really do think Minnesota can definitely get 2 games out of this, maybe even 3. Who knows? Now off to Colorado and St. Louis. This one's going 7. It's I don't know. I don't know how it can't go 7. It has to go. It has to go the distance. All right, now let's go visit my division where my favorite team plays, and let's start off with that series: the Montreal Canadiens versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. As you know, if you did watch my series preview of that series, then that I am choosing the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm doing it in 5 games. Sorry, but we'll get to that. But if you want to see my full comments on that series, please go check it out. The only way that Montreal can win, I think, is if Carey Price completely stands on his head, and if Toronto starts to think about, we can't keep losing in the first round, especially not to the Montreal Canadiens. If those 2 factors take place, Montreal might actually win this series, but I don't think that's going to happen, but still. Okay, Edmonton and Winnipeg. This one's tricky because Winnipeg has played terribly in the past 2 months, but they've had a couple of games actually recently where they've looked very promising, and they have everything on paper. They've got the right team, I think. A couple of pieces missing, but they're not perfect, but they're pretty good. And I think because they've done so poorly in the past 2 months, a lot of people are underestimating them. So I think they have a very good chance against Edmonton, but McDavid, I think he's tired of losing, and he just he'll do everything in his power to make it so it happens. So I'm going to choose Edmonton to get this done, and I'm going to choose it in 6. So I don't know. The games here is where I'm having trouble. I can honestly even see Edmonton maybe even sweeping, but I can also see Winnipeg making this difficult and taking it to 7 and maybe squeezing out a win. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. We have not seen Edmonton really in the playoffs, and what we have seen of Winnipeg has been a bit hit or miss, so who knows. Now, I already said it's going to be 5 games for the Maple Leafs, and here's where things get stressful, I guess, for me, because now we're into the situation where I don't even know if these are going to be right from this point on. So I'm really doubling down my prediction here and trying to figure this out. Now, let's start off again with the East Division. Pittsburgh versus Boston. Guys, I don't have a feeling either way here. I want to choose Boston, but I just think that Pittsburgh has... I just have a gut feeling about Pittsburgh. I think they've got something maybe special here, and I've underestimated them. So I don't want to be fooled again, and for that reason, I'm going to choose Pittsburgh to defeat the Boston Bruins. Moving on to the Central Division, we've got Carolina versus Florida. I think I'm worried a little. It's not that Carolina can't play physical, but I would be worried about the physicality of the Florida Panthers really taking a toll on Carolina, and that may lead into the following round. I'm going to choose Carolina. I do think Carolina will beat Florida, but that could be a series that really bangs up Carolina. Moving over to the West, we've got Colorado versus Vegas, the two powerhouses. And prior to the season starting, I had them both at the top two, so I have to continue the trend. And while I predicted Colorado to finish at the top at the end of the season, I actually predicted Vegas to win the Cup. So I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna say that Vegas does defeat Colorado, but if they do play each other, it is probably going to be one of the most enjoyable series in the last decade of NHL hockey. So I really do hope it happens, and it's gonna be a long one. It'll go the distance as well. Toronto and Edmonton, this is probably the series that I'm most excited for, just because I want to see, if it does happen, I want to see McDavid versus Matthews and Draisaitl versus Marner. And I want to see these big, incredible superstars from the Canadian teams just go head-to-head and see who's actually the better offensive team and see who can just see the clash and build a rivalry. So I want to see this, and I think if Toronto gets that first round off their back and gets to the second round, anything is possible for the Maple Leafs. But if Edmonton moves on, I'm going to choose Edmonton here. That could be the wrong move, but I'm going to choose the McDavid factor that he will push them through. So we've got Vegas versus Edmonton in the conference finals in the West, and Carolina versus Pittsburgh in the East. Again, the stress has doubled now. In the East, Carolina versus Pittsburgh. I believe here is where my gut feeling runs out for Pittsburgh. I am going to choose Carolina to advance. I don't really have a reason for that other than I think Carolina is built better. I like their depth more. They're very similar teams, but I guess I just preferred Carolina's depth just a little bit more. On the West, we've got Vegas versus Edmonton. I got to choose Vegas. I've got to stick with my original prediction and get Vegas to the finals. So I am predicting Vegas versus Carolina in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I'm going to continue my initial prediction from the beginning of the season with the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup, defeating the Carolina Hurricanes. And now I got to choose the goals. I didn't even know that this was a thing. Okay. Enter the number of goals scored. Okay. I don't know. 34. It's a bit. There you go. There's my official prediction, my official bracket. Like I said at the beginning, it is a little stressful, but this really is just for fun. I mean, if you're taking the bracket so seriously that you're making fun of someone or you're calling someone names or whatever, go for a walk, drink a Yoo-Hoo, have a hot dog with some mustard on it, pet a cat, read a book, do whatever you need to do to calm down. This is just for fun. So thanks for having fun with me, guys. I appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the like button. And let me know also in the comment section, who do you think is going to win? What is your prediction? Because we're going back to this video once the Stanley Cup is awarded, and we're picking some comments from the list here, from the whole comment section, and we're seeing who actually predicted the correct Stanley Cup winner from this comment section. And don't edit it. If you make a comment, don't edit it, because I won't choose it, because you could have edited it in the future right when they won the Stanley Cup. So make your comments right now. Choose your Stanley Cup winner. Good luck, and I'll see you soon. Adios.